This fascinating world of watches has a place for everyone, contrary to the cliched belief that the world of haute horlogerie is presumably limited to the men in suits. Hi guys, I'm Karishma Karer and welcome to Who Needs a Book Club with the Hour Markers. So I have with me today two peers from the watch industry, two ladies who I really look up to with so much knowledge and so much experience. My first guest, and if I may say a friend, is Elizabeth Doyer. Did I get that right?
Oh, it's actually Der. It rhymes with fur.
Okay, great.
It's German pronunciation, something else.
She's a specialized watch journalist for decades and decades now. She's a renowned author for two fantastic books and is also the co-founder of quillandpad.com. Elizabeth has been into mechanical watches since 1991, and there's been no looking back ever since then. So welcome to the Hour Markers, Elizabeth. Welcome to Who Needs a Book Club.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here.
My next guest, of course, is Sandra Lane. Hi, Sandra. Welcome to Who Needs a Book Club with the Hour Markers. Sandra, you started your career as a fashion stylist.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess once you were introduced to the world of watches and jewelry almost a decade ago, there was no looking back.
I would say I was actually introduced to watches and jewelry probably 3 decades ago, but about 10 years ago, you know, I was so far down the rabbit hole of fascination with watches that's what I started to focus on.
You've also been the editor for Revolution magazine in the Middle East, and also consulting luxury brands now.
Yes.
So Sandra, welcome again to the Who Needs a Book Club with the Hour Markers. I'm so glad to have you ladies on board. And now that we have the formalities out of the way, since we're all on different longitudes and different time zones, let's get this started with a quick wrist check.
Right.
There we go. I have today a vintage, jaeger-lecoultre, even though it only says lecoultre on the dial, Memovox from my birth year, which I found, I hunted for and got myself for my 50th birthday.
Oh, beautiful.
Fabulous. Yeah. Are you double wristing, Elizabeth? Or
no, not today.
Not today. Well, because that's how we often roll, I am. And I thought one old, one new. This is a Piaget Caliber 9P. It doesn't really have a model name. This was made in around 1972, although the caliber, which is 1.8 millimeters thick, was developed in 1957, before they had CNC machines, before they had lasers, before any of that stuff, which is why I love it. And the other one, this one, is from a lovely company called Claude Mélon, and they specialize in doing, they specialize in skeletonization.
And I lost your video. Oh,
there you are. Yeah, they specialize in skeletonization, and I like this because it's very pretty, very feminine. It just goes to show you can have a skeletonized watch, and it doesn't have to cost a fortune. This is less than 5,000 Swiss francs.
Fantastic. Lovely. Yeah, I love the work that Claude Mélon does. They do some beautiful timepieces. Well, I've got one watch that I've stolen from my father, which is the El Primero Zenith. It's the rainbow. I think it's from 1991. Once I saw it, I just had to have it. There was no looking back. And the other one is something that I'm mostly known to be wearing, which is independent brands. By the way, I just put the second watch on once I saw yours. I thought I'd just show it on, but then I thought I'd look silly with it. So it's the Haute.
It looks amazing on you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a stunning piece anyway, but on you, it looks fabulous.
Thank you. The reason I love it is because this is one of the collections that could be customized. And back in the day, the owners of Haute at that time had told me that don't you ever tell anyone that, you know, Haute made you a pink watch. But they did. They made me a pink watch. So yeah, these are my watches. Great. So let's get the conversation started. This is not a feminist platform. The whole idea of Who Needs a Book Club is we're ladies, but we love watches and we can talk watches. So I want your take on what it's like to be a woman in an industry full of men in suits.
Well, I can tell you, especially having started so far back, um, it was, it really was, and still to a great degree is an industry full of men in suits. It it's hard to talk about it sometimes without sounding funny, I guess. But it wasn't easy because you get dismissed very quickly, or got dismissed. Maybe it probably doesn't happen as much anymore, but in the day, there was certainly a lot of dismissal happening, you know. So one of the things a strategy I thought up for myself to combat it was to buy a watch that was big and mechanical and very technical looking, that I fell in love with the minute I saw it. It was far too big for my wrist at that time because no one actually wore watches that big. Um, this was pre-Panerai, of course. And, you know, a 39 millimeter watch on my wrist looked absurd in those days. You know, we were all still wearing 28s, 29s, 30s. But I bought it because I loved it. It sat on my dresser for 2 years. And that about 2 years in, I thought, to heck with it, I'm going to start wearing it. And I discovered that the strategy worked. The minute the men sort of spied what I was wearing, they stopped treating me in that little girly way and started taking me a little more seriously. I did bring that watch with me today. This is what it looks like. It's really hard to see on Zoom. It is the Chrono Swiss Opus. I have it now. I bought an original bracelet for it this year. I had to search that out too. That was quite a hunt. I always wore it on a strap, but now I have it on this beautiful original bracelet because I think Chrono Swiss makes one of the best, or made one of the best beads of rice bracelets I've ever seen. And this watch, to this day, I love it to death. And today it looks very proportionate on my wrist. It looks like something anyone would wear. It's a good solid size. It's noticeable, but it's not absurd. Back in the day, it looked very different.
No, it's true though, isn't it? That if you are wearing a watch, you know, an interesting watch, meaning with some story to it or something interesting mechanical about it, it actually opens a door, not just in the industry, but it opens a door socially as well. I mean, if you just happen to be in a gathering of people and there's someone, you know, like at a dinner party, and there's someone else around the table, usually a guy, because he will spot an interesting watch on a woman's wrist and he will ask, because he'll be say like, how come? As if it's strange for a woman to have a really interesting watch, but it's a fantastic icebreaker. It's lovely. Yeah. And I've made some wonderful friendships just purely as a result of a conversation about what's on my wrist and what's on the other person's wrist.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, those kind of conversations in social circles can lead to really fun conversations about cars and other things. And, you know, things I can converse about a lot of different topics, but it's kind of fun when it comes around to something mechanical.
Yeah.
I've had similar instances. I haven't been around as long as the two of you have. I don't have the same experience, but it's been almost 17 years for me. And I think, but to be honest, I think the digital aspect of things has just come in the forefront for me, particularly. I'm sure it's been around for decades. So there's a lot of times when, you know, we use platforms like YouTube and Instagram, and the response that you get always is, you're talking about watches, but you know, you're a woman and you're talking about watches. And we're always sort of, I don't know whether it's a global thing, but we're always associated to the glam aspect of displaying watches. Whereas, I mean, a lot of us do know what we're talking about when it comes to timepieces and chronographs, and we can talk to you about gear trains, and we can talk to you about the mechanics of fine watchmaking. But I don't think it's taken as seriously as it should be. I mean, I'm sure you have your stories as well when it comes to that, and you both have a lot of knowledge when it comes to watches.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sandra.
No, I was just thinking sometimes too, it's not even about necessarily knowing. And I say this to girlfriends who are kind of curious, but they're really intimidated and all this. I said, you know what? Curiosity is the most important thing. You know, if you can show that you're genuinely interested and curious and you want to know, people will respond, and they'll be much more welcoming. It's almost better to do that. And actually, very early in my career, I learned it the hard way when I interviewed. My first interview of a CEO was one of, I won't name him, but he's one of the absolute, you know, grand monsieur of the entire industry. And I sort of asked him a question where I was fudging it and sort of trying to pretend that I knew something and I didn't. And he slapped me down so fast. You know, it's like, don't pretend, just be, you know, be genuinely curious and honest about, you know, if you're interested, go for it. I mean, you must have found that yourself, Karishma, right? With your, you know, from your point of view in the business.
I did. I had similar experiences. Okay, so I've never said this out loud to anyone, but what the hell? There used to be times when I recently got into the business, and I was an amateur. I wasn't very aware of what's going on. I didn't have too much knowledge. So I used to work with my editorial team and get them to send me. This is so embarrassing. Get them to send me a list of questions that I can interview the CEO with, and I used to bomb all of them because I didn't know what I was talking about at the end of the day, you know. And when I think about those days today, I'm like, it's so silly. We could have just been honest and just asked those questions that we were unaware of. Today, things come to you naturally, and you know, you're more, you have a lot more knowledge. But back in the day, I did that, and as embarrassing as it is, it didn't work.
I think the best, you know, especially for women watching this, you know, who are either already collecting or are curious about it, one of the best questions you can ask is, how does that actually work? Can you explain it to me?
Yeah, I think no question is a stupid question. There are no dumb questions, and learning is a process. And I think if that's, Karishma, if that's how you had to learn back then that's how you had to learn. We all started somewhere. I think it took forever before I had CEO interviews, you know.
Fortunately, they were all in print. Digital wasn't a situation at that time, so you couldn't tell that I was so blank about what I was asking. Okay, moving on. What are the do's and don'ts that you would recommend to anybody in general while buying their first watch?
Well, I think the primary rule, and I think Sandra would probably agree, the primary rule is just buy what you love.
Yeah, totally. Don't buy a brand because you think you should. But if you truly love the product of a given brand, buy that product. Otherwise, ignore the brand completely. Because you want to be wearing the watch, you want to be looking at your wrist and loving it. And if you've got multiple watches, you want to be, every morning, you want to be in an agony of choice because you love them all so much.
That's what happened to me this morning.
Do you get this question a lot? I want to buy a watch, but I want it to be an investment.
Okay. Yeah. I would say this, that in life, as in watches, the return on investment is never just financial. So in terms of your watch, think about the ROI as the joy and the pleasure and what it will add to your quality of life and everything else. If you're thinking of it to buy it as an investment, then don't even think about buying modern watches. But then you're going to get into a massive amount of learning before you can even begin to buy a vintage watch that will genuinely be an investment. But forget about modern watches. They are not an investment except an investment in pleasure.
That is such perfect advice, Sandra. And I have to say, I'm glad you brought up the vintage watches because it's such a topic these days. When I started in the early 90s, vintage watches weren't even a subject. No one talked about vintage watches. Vintage watches were pocket watches, and they were dead, you know, it was gone. But these days it is a big subject. And I can tell you, I had to do my homework to hurry up and catch up. And I was super afraid to jump in, and I did not jump in with 2 feet. I own a couple of vintage watches now because these are watches that some of them that might have been new when I first started, you know, and missed my chance. I can get it now. But I think
you and I are officially vintage age in watch terms, right? In terms of our watch careers.
But I think the super important thing is what you actually said is to buy what you love. Don't think of it as an investment, and make sure that you do your homework and that you are paying a fair price. If you find the price justified, then it's a fair price. But I personally try to buy things that are overpriced because of maybe a brand name that's on it. you can get similar quality elsewhere, unless of course that brand name comes with a beautiful package that I just can't resist. You know, that's an entire possibility.
Yeah. So I think the whole concept is associated with commercially successful brands. I think that's what sort of takes over when when people come and ask me, particularly that I want to buy a watch, that's my budget, but I want it to be an investment. So, I mean, I'm not going to take any names, but we all know there are like 3 or 4 brands that are considered to be an investment. And or with all due respect, they are commercial successes in our industry with the quality and everything. But it's not something I'd necessarily recommend to someone just because the brand is a commercial success. And is my point basically. Again, if you love the watch, if it fits on your wrist, if it doesn't damage your wallet too much, then go for it. But the point is that you have to enjoy what you're wearing. You have to. I believe a lot in reading up. Nowadays, it's kind of dumbed down to videos and pictures. But I believe still in reading up. There's some beautiful books out there that give you that kind of knowledge about the watches. And if you're that interested in your first luxury watch purchase, I think knowledge is very important. And, you know, talking to people from it could be a retailer, it could be a fellow collector, just to sort of get that knowledge before you look into your first watch.
You know, I would say another thing another analogy on this investment thing is, I think with watches, it's very much as it is with cars. It is, if you are buying a classic car, it may well be an investment, but you absolutely have to know what you're doing. And a few of them are. But if you buy a modern car, is any modern car an investment? You buy the modern car, regardless of the price or the brand, you buy it because that's what you love.
Absolutely. I mean, it depreciates the minute you drive it out of the showroom. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And the same is said for new watches, unless it's, you know, 1 or 2 of those that we were just.
Okay, great. That was an interesting perspective. Watch care at home. How do we do basic watch care at home? One of the problems, I'm going to start with this because, you know, being in India, with our weather and everything, there's a lot of perspiration on the wrist, and with our leather straps. I think perspiration sort of destroys leather straps more than water does. So one of the things that I do is I just take a damp cloth and clean out my leather strap at the back, and that's really kept the straps going for me. So that is one of the things that I do personally.
Oh, that's interesting. I've never heard that tip before. Of course, I live in Central Europe, so we don't really have a climate issue here. When it's too warm in the summer, I just wear my bracelet watches.
Yeah. But yeah, it is interesting. And, you know, the fact that you're raising the point of a strap, because we tend, for better or for worse, unfortunately, we tend to think of a leather strap as not exactly disposable, but oh well, when it's worn out, it's worn out. You know, we tend not to even think of how can I give this the longest possible life. So that's a really great tip.
Mm-hmm. So what do you guys, how do you take care of your watches at home? And especially last year, since, you know, we couldn't really give it outside.
Yeah. Well, I've got a how not to take care of your watch story.
That works too.
My brother, who is not remotely interested in watches except as a functional way of telling the time, his first wristwatch from the mid-1960s was an Omega Seamaster. Mm-hmm. And a few years ago, he said, "Oh, you're into watches, aren't you? Do you want this old thing?" And I'm kind of going, yeah. And then I said to him, "Thanks. Oh, by the way, when did you last get it serviced?" Serviced? What do you mean? And that's actually something that, you know, a lot of people don't realize. You know, it's a machine. It's like a car. You know, it needs to get serviced.
I think 4 to 5 years. Sorry, I think the service time for a watch should be every 4 to 5 years, right?
Yeah, it's not super frequent, but it still needs to be done.
I think that 4 to 5 years is what the manufacturers generally say. Although I will admit, I usually don't have mine serviced that frequently because I tend to cycle through them and wardrobe them. So I don't wear them that much. But one thing I do is once a month, make sure to wind them all to make sure that the oils are going through the movement. They don't coagulate anywhere or something like that. Yeah. You know, every now and then I wipe them down with like a cleaning solution. It's just like jewelry, you know, they'll they won't be pristine, after a while, skin, et cetera, et cetera. So you should wipe them down, make sure they're hygienic.
Right, right. I also feel like one of the things I have to say out there is with Google and with this whole online stuff going on, everyone's a doctor. Everyone feels like they can perform their own surgeries. My only suggestion is don't break down your watch, don't open it up, don't try to clean it up. There are a lot of guides to doing that online, but I would recommend if your watch is in that bad a shape, then just wait it out and give it to a service center and get it done, because you can't really be performing those kind of surgeries yourself.
Exactly. I mean, you wouldn't do open heart surgery on yourself, would you?
Exactly my point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to put that out there. All right.
No,
ladies.
I do have a friend who buys old eBay watches, I don't know, for $100 or whatever, and takes them apart and services them. So.
Okay, but we still don't suggest it. It's not a do-it-yourself suggestion.
Definitely not for something you actually want to wear and keep. Yeah.
I think so. All right, ladies, we have, I don't know if it's an exciting, but we have a day coming up. Valentine's Day coming up very soon. So the cliche question being, what is the watch you would like to receive or buy yourself or gift to someone else on Valentine's Day?
Well, I think the perfect watch for Valentine's Day and any special occasion is always the jaeger-lecoultre Reverso. It is the absolutely perfect watch for any occasion, because you can buy it in a variety of sizes, shapes, colors, dials, and it's engravable. And they have a service department right at the manufacturer that can engrave. And my partner, for example, bought his wife a Reverso as a special gift and had her horse engraved in the case back, and it turned out beautifully.
Okay. So is that a watch you'd want to get or give?
Both. Oh my goodness, both.
Actually, I'm 100% with you on there. So I can't suggest anything better. But what I will say is, please, please, please do not even think of giving me anything that is a Valentine's Day special, like with hearts or flowers or pink or red. Just don't even go there. And by the way, if you're giving me a Reverso and you want to engrave a special date on the back, if that date is the 14th of February, call my lawyer.
Message received loud and clear. I think I would want to receive the mb&f Flying T, the black ceramic watch. I know it's a bit out there, but I loved it. I mean, I saw that piece and I saw it on the wrist of so many women when I was in Dubai Watch Week, and it looks beautiful.
Yeah, and there, Karishma, you actually raised a really good point there, because whether it's Valentine's Day or any occasion, if you're buying a watch for someone else, or if someone else is buying a watch for you, a man especially, find out what the receiver loves. Yeah. Just ask their friends. If you don't know for sure yourself, ask their friends. Find out. Yeah. Give the person something that person loves, not what you love or you think they should love.
I don't know, Sandra. Maybe give them something that you love and get them to love it so you can wear it also.
There is that
strategy.
I wear a lot of men's watches, so if I had to gift a man something on Valentine's Day, I'd probably give him the IWC, the Portuguese Perpetual Calendar, the boutique edition with the blue dial.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
Yeah. Actually, hope he doesn't love it. Then you'll have to wear it.
I actually gave my husband a watch once that I was hoping he wouldn't love, so I could wear it, and I haven't to this day. I bought it in 1992, and to this day, I haven't been able to wear it. He won't give it to me.
It's a thought.
Yeah.
That's the direction I'm going in.
I mean, I think it's actually really cool. I know of some couples, and there's more than one couple who are, very active on Instagram, who actually share their collection. Collecting is an interest they share. They do it together. The watches that they choose, both of them can wear, and I think that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. All right, and my final question is, what is your Grail watch? We'll start with you, Sandra.
With me. Okay. How many Grails am I allowed?
I would say
but to narrow it down, so I mean, I would have, in a heartbeat, I would have a DB28, de Bethune DB28, or any of the Acrivia pieces, or any of the anything from FP Journe, or from Romain Gaultier. However, that watch would have to come with a wrist transplant. So, because my wrists are tiny.
Mhm.
So, you know, so my Grail watch has to be something I can wear. And so I would say it'll be a Voutilainen, and you know, probably, I mean, the 28 ISO, because it has everything. It has Kari Voutilainen's stunning watchmaking. It has the fabulous dials that he does, and it's got an astounding complication, which is, it's a very different way of reading the time, and it's based on Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow. It's beyond cool. So that is my Grail. Also, I would add that why have all my Grail names been independents? It's like, if I am at the point in my life where I can have a watch like that, I can think of no greater privilege than to be able to support the work of an independent maker.
I second that.
I third it. And my Grail is also from an independent maker, Vianney Hatta, with the Antiqua, which is no longer in production. So it's vintage, but from the day I laid eyes on it, I have loved that watch, and I knew it would always be inaccessible for me, which is unfortunate, but
yeah,
that makes it a Grail.
Yeah.
I love independence. I do a lot of work with the independent brands, but my Grail watch, and I say it's my Grail, but I wanted to keep it on my wrist for a month and then decide, is the Alange & Zone Zeitwerk striking time. It's large. It's relatively large for my wrist, but there's just something about the mechanism. It's like something beating on your wrist, and there's something about it. It's beautiful. It's even the sound of the mechanism is just, it's fantastic. So I don't know if I'll ever get my hands on it, but it's a beautiful timepiece. So definitely my Grail watch would be the Zeitwerk striking time.
Great.
Beautiful choice.
Great.
Excellent.
All right. So this was fun. We should do it again.
We should.
Let's do it again. It's great.
Who's bringing the wine next time?
Yeah, I think so. I think we should sort of plan our time zones accordingly and bring some wine to the table next time. It might work. Great. Thank you, ladies. It was great having you. And we'll see you again soon. Thank you for being part of Who Needs a Book Club with the hour markers. Clearly, who needs a book club?
Clearly.
Thank you so much for inviting us to take part.
Pleasure. Thank you. That was fun. If you like this video, do subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on all those cool updates. And if you want us to review any watches, do let us know.